Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In continuity with the last lecture pertaining to the external features of the cerebellum, we will continue on based of previous knowledge. We will divide the cerebellum into different lobes. So last time we discussed the morphological subdivisions of the cerebellum, which was explained with the help of this diagram, dividing the vermis hemisphere into various lobules. Now we will discuss what are the lobes of cerebellum, gross anatomically or morphological lobes. Now, morphologically, we divide the cerebellum into three major lobes. That is folliculonodular lobe, anterior lobe, and middle or posterior lobe. So, anterior lobe, number 2, middle or posterior lobe, and number 3, folliculonodular lobe. Anterior lobe from lingula up to the fissura prima. This is anterior lobe of the cerebellum. Then middle lobe, starting from fissura prima up to the posterolateral fissure. This is the middle or the posterior lobe. Next, flocculonodular lobe, separated from the middle or posterior lobe by posterolateral fissure. So, three major fissures take part in division of the cerebellum into these three gross anatomical lobes. Fissura prima, or primary fissure, is between anterior lobe and middle lobe, while posterolateral fissure is between middle lobe and flocculonodular lobe. Now, the anterior lobe and middle lobe, they are collectively known as corpus cerebelli. Thus, we can say that gross anatomically we divide the cerebellum into flocculonodular lobe and corpus cerebelli, and the corpus cerebelli further comprise of the anterior lobe and the middle lobe or posterior lobe. So, the anterior lobe and middle lobe are collectively known as the corpus cerebelli. Corpus stands for body. So this is how we divide the cerebellum into these three major lobes. Now, what are different parts of these lobes? You can see in this diagram, and already in the last lecture we discussed in detail. For example, the anterior lobe comprises of lingula, central lobule, column of the vermis, ala, and quadrangular lobule of each half of the cerebellum. These are parts of the anterior lobe. What are the different parts of the middle or posterior lobe? Tracing from fissura prima up to the posterolateral fissure comprise of declive, folium, tuber, pyramid, ula of the vermis, and parallel to it the lobulus simplex or simple lobule, superior semilunar lobule, inferior semilunar lobule, biventral lobule, and tonsils. These are parts of the middle lobe of the cerebellum. Next, flocculonodular lobe. You can see it is separated from rest of the cerebellum by posterolateral fissure or fissura posterolaterales. And this flocculonodular lobe comprises of nodule of the vermis, peduncle, and flocculus. This constitutes the flocculonodular lobe. Now, I told you that we divide it into anterior lobe, middle lobe, and flocculonodular lobe. Middle lobe is also known as posterior lobe. For example, suppose this is a lateral view of the midbrain, then pons and medulla oblongata, then behind the pons and medulla oblongata is the cerebellum. So you can see in the lateral view, this is the anterior lobe. And this is flocculonodular lobe. Anterior lobe, flocculonodular lobe, and here is the middle lobe. Now, why it is known as the middle lobe? Because in front is the anterior lobe, behind is the flocculonodular lobe, in the middle is this part, therefore it is known as the middle lobe. Now, this middle lobe is also known as posterior lobe. How? If you look to this diagram, anteriorly is the anterior lobe, posterior to it is the posterior or middle lobe, and below is the flocculonodular lobe. So this is why this middle lobe is also known as the posterior lobe. Now, this is how we divide the cerebellum into these three major anatomical lobes, morphological or gross anatomical lobes. Next, we can also divide the cerebellum into embryological lobes based on development. This is one. Number one is archicerebellum. Number two is paliocerebellum. And number three is the neocerebellum. Now, what are different lobes and lobules included in these three immunological types of lobes of the cerebellum. The same lobules of the vermis and cerebellar hemisphere will be divided into archicerebellum, paliocerebellum, neocerebellum. Now, archicerebellum, it comprises of flacculonodular lobe, and lingula of the vermis. It comprises of flacculonodular lobe, and lingula of the vermis. Flacculonodular lobe and lingula. These are the parts of the archicerebellum. Second is paliocerebellum. What are the parts of the paliocerebellum? Anterior lobe, but excluding lingula. The anterior lobe of the gross anatomy up to the fissura prima, but excluding lingula. Why lingula is included in the archicerebellum? So nodule, peduncle, flocculus, that is flacculonodular lobe plus lingula form the archicerebellum. Then paliocerebellum is the anterior gross anatomical lobe of the cerebellum, excluding the lingula. But including tuber and pyramid. Including the pyramid and uvula. These are the parts of paliocerebellum. Now, what are these? Anterior lobe of the cerebellum. But excluding the lingula, because lingula is included in the archicerebellum. Now, apart from anterior lobe excluding the lingula, we also include the pyramid and uvula. So all these parts which are marked by, which are stepped by the green marker, these are all parts of the paliocerebellum. Now, what are the parts of periocerebellum? Next, immunological lobe. The anterior lobe excluding the lingula, but including the uvula and pyramid of the vermis. Thus, what are the different components of paleo-cerebellum? That is the central lobule, culmen of the vermis, ala and quadrangular lobule of each cerebellum sphere. Then again, on the inferior surface, the pyramid and uvula. These are parts of the paleo-cerebellum. Next, the neocerebellum. This is middle lobe. So, the middle lobe but excluding the middle lobe, excluding the pyramid and uvula. Neocerebellum. It comprises of middle lobe of the gross anatomy, but excluding the uvula and the pyramid. Pyramid and uvula. Why? Because pyramid and uvula, they are included here in the paleo-cerebellum. Pyramid and uvula are included in the paleo-cerebellum. So embryologically, we divide the cerebellum into three lobes, named as archicerebellum, paleo-cerebellum, and neocerebellum. Archicerebellum, it comprises of flocculonodular lobe plus only lingula of the vermis. The red colored lobules, nodule, peduncle, flocculus, that is flocculonodular lobe plus lingula of the vermis constitute the archicerebellum. Second embryological lobe is the paleo-cerebellum. It comprises of anterior lobe of the gross anatomy, excluding lingula, because lingula is included in the archicerebellum. Then you add the pyramid and uvula. So the paleo-cerebellum comprises of anterior lobe of the gross anatomy, excluding the lingula, including the pyramid and uvula. These areas with green strip lines. So what are the different parts of the paleo-cerebellum? That is the central lobule and culmen of the vermis on the superior surface, and parallel to it, ala and the quadrangular lobule, plus the uvula and the pyramid of the vermis on the inferior surface. These are parts of the paleo-cerebellum. Now remaining parts, that is middle lobe, but excluding the pyramid and uvula. Why? Because pyramid and uvula, they are included in the paleo-cerebellum. Therefore, the neocerebellum, it comprises of the declive, folium, tuber of the vermis, and on each side, the lobulus simplex or simple lobule, superior semilunar lobule, inferior semilunar lobule, biventral lobule, and tonsil. These are parts of the neocerebellum. So developmentally, we have archicerebellum, paleo-cerebellum, and neocerebellum. Now, why they are known as archicerebellum, paleo-cerebellum, and neocerebellum? Suppose you want to construct a 3-story building. So first of all, suppose you started construction and you constructed this first floor. So when you constructed the first floor, then there is a lack of money for you to construct the rest of the 2 stories. So in the next year, you collect the money and then you construct the second floor of the building. Again, you have no money to complete the top floor. So again, you wait to collect the money, arrange the money, and finally you will construct the top floor. Therefore, after 8 months or 1 year, again, you arrange money for construction and completion of this building. Then you ultimately constructed the top floor. Now this building is now completed in steps. First of all, the ground floor you have constructed. Then after few months or a year, you started the second floor of the building. Then again, after a period of time, you again started the top floor. In this way, in 3 phases, you completed the building. So now building is completed. Now, which is the oldest part of building? This will be the oldest part because 2 years back you have constructed this part. Then you constructed this second floor. And in the last you have constructed this top floor. Therefore, this top floor is the new one and the ground floor is the oldest. Therefore, the cerebellum is also developed in phases, in steps. First of all, one part of the cerebellum is developed, then the second part, and then the third part. So the first part of the cerebellum which was developed was the flocculonodular lobe and lingula. This is why it is named as the archicerebellum. Archaeology, archicerebellum, the oldest one. So the first part of the cerebellum which developed in life are the flocculonodular lobe and the lingula. So these are known as the archicerebellum. Then the second part of the cerebellum which is developed is the paliocerebellum. That is the anterior lobe, excluding the lingula, including the pyramid and uvula. This is the second, next part of the cerebellum which is developed. And then ultimately, the middle lobe of the cerebellum is developed, excluding the uvula and pyramid. So this is the last part of the cerebellum which is developed. So this is the newest part. This is why it is known as the new cerebellum. So based on stages of development, we divide the cerebellum into these 3 major lobes. That is archicerebellum, comprising of flocculonodular lobe and lingula. Then paliocerebellum, comprising of the whole anterior lobe, excluding the lingula, but include pyramid and uvula of the vermis. And the last lobe is the neocerebellum, which is comprising of the whole middle lobe, but exclude the pyramid and uvula because these are part of the paliocerebellum. So in this way, we divide the cerebellum depending upon stages or phases of development into archicerebellum, paliocerebellum, and neocerebellum. Now, in the same fig different lobes, developmental lobes, they are differentiated from each other by using different colors. So you can see the red color parts are parts of the archicerebellum. Number one. The flacculonodular lobe and lingula of the vermis. Then the periocerebellum is shown in green color. And the neocerebellum in blue color. Now in this way, comparing this diagram showing different embryological lobes, comparing with this diagram, you can describe different lobes and lobules of the vermis and cerebellar hemisphere, which are parts of the archicerebellum, paleocerebellum, and neocerebellum. Now again, we can divide the cerebellum into physiological or functional lobes. Now, what are the physiological or functional lobes? Physiological lobes. Again, cerebellum is divided into three types of lobes physiologically, depending upon the connections and depending upon the functions and effects of lesions. Number one is the vestibulospinocerebellar lobe. Vestibulospinocerebellar lobe. What are its parts? Parts are same as those of archicerebellum. And what are those parts? You know, the flacculonodular lobe and lingula of the vermis. These are different parts of archicerebellum. Physiologically, these parts of the archicerebellum, they are vestibulospinocerebellar lobe. They constitute the physiological lobe named as vestibulospinocerebellar lobe. What are its connections? connections of this physiological lobe. Its name indicate it is vestibular in connection. And spinocerebellar in connection. That is, the cerebellum is connected with vestibular nuclei and with spinal cord. So the fibers which connect the archicerebellum with vestibular nuclei and with the spinal cord, the fibers are connections that are vestibular, and spinocerebellar in connection. Then what are the functions of this physiological part? Functions, they are responsible for balance and equilibrium. These are the functions of this physiological lobe. Vestibulo-spinocerebellar lobe, responsible for balance and equilibrium. And balance, especially of the head and eyes. These are the functions of this physiological lobe. Now, what will be the effects of lesions? Effects of lesions of vestibulo-spinocerebellar lobe. When it is damaged, what will happen? There will be disturbance of balance and equilibrium. Balance and equilibrium. Balance of the body and equilibrium will be disturbed. When the balance and equilibrium is disturbed, there will be trunk ataxia. Trunk ataxia means the patient will walk as if drunk. Suppose how you will test this. You will draw a line and you will ask the patient to walk on this line. So if the person is normal, his footsteps will be on the line. But when there is a lesion of this lobe, then his feet will not unable to walk on the straight on the line. So he will walk here and there, imbalance. This is called trunk ataxia. So whenever there is a lesion of this lobe, it will cause disturbance of the balance and equilibrium of the body, balance especially of the head region and eyes. And when there is a lesion of this lobe, the balance and the equilibrium will be disturbed, and the patient will not walk on a straight line. For example, he is passing through a street, he will strike on this side and on this side, unable to walk straight. And how you will test? You will draw a straight line and then you will ask the patient to walk over this line. So if there is trunk ataxia, he will fall on this and on this side. He cannot walk straight. This condition is known as the trunk ataxia. These are the effects of lesion of this lobe. Next, this lobe is also present in fishes. So this was about the first physiological lobe based on connections, functions, and lesions. That is vestibulo-spinocerebellar lobe. It is nothing but archicerebellum. Same components as we discussed with archicerebellum, that is flacculonodular lobe and lingula. And the flacculonodular lobe and lingula is connected with vestibular nuclei and with the spinal cord. So it is vestibular and spinocerebellar in connection, this physiological lobe. Its function is for balance and equilibrium of the body, balance especially of the head region and eyes. And when this lobe is damaged, it will result in trunk ataxia. Why? Because balance and equilibrium will be disturbed. And this primitive part is also present in fishes. And it is the first part of the cerebellum which is developed. This is why it is developmentally also known as the archicerebellum. This was the first physiological lobe. Now, what is the second physiological lobe? The second physiological lobe is spinocerebellar lobe. Spinocerebellar lobe. Now, what are the parts included in this lobe? That is parts of the paliocerebellum. Which parts are included in this physiological lobe? Spinocerebellar lobe. What are the parts? That is all parts which belong to paliocerebellum. And you know the paliocerebellum, it comprises of the ala, quadrilateral lobule, central lobule, culmen. Then on the inferior vermis is the parament and uvula. So one has to describe all these parts in detail. Just to save the time, I just have written the paliocerebellum. So all the parts included in paliocerebellum are spinocerebellar lobe, physiological lobe. Now, what are the connections of this lobe? As its name indicates, it has connection with spinal cord. So it is spinocerebellar in connection. That is, this spinocerebellar lobe, which is nothing but paliocerebellum, is connected with spinal cord by nerve fibers. So it is spinocerebellar in connection. Next, what are its functions? What are the functions of spinocerebellar? Coordination, posture, coordination, posture, writing reflexes. Coordination, posture, writing reflexes. These are the functions of this second physiological lobe. Now, what will be the effects of lesions of this physiological lobe? Lesions, there will be postural disturbances. it will result in postural disturbances and the reflexes will be exaggerated. So whenever there is lesion of the spinocerebellar lobe, that is the periocerebellum, it will result in the postural disturbances and reflexes will be exaggerated. And it is present also in birds and reptiles apart from human being. This part. So this was the second physiological lobe, depending upon functions, connections and effects of lesion. Spinocerebellar lobe. What are the parts included in this lobe? All parts which are the components of periocerebellum. That is the central lobule, the culmen, ala, quadrangular lobule, then the pyramid and uvula, periocerebellum. It is in connection with spinal cord, so it is spinocerebellar connection. And its functions are coordination, body posture, writing reflexes. And when this periocerebellum as connections are damaged, it will result in postural disturbances and the reflexes will be exaggerated. And apart from human being, it is also present in the birds and reptiles. This was about the second physiological lobe. Now third physiological lobe. Is corticopontocerebellar. These blue colored parts. The third physiological lobe, corticopontocerebellar lobe. Now again, using same headings, which parts are included in this lobe? Corticopontocerebellar, new cerebellum. What are the different parts of new cerebellum or the parts of corticopontocerebellar physiological lobe? So you can see here the red color, the flocculonodular lobe and nodule are parts of the vestibulospinocerebellar lobe, and then embryologically it is the flocculonodular lobe. Then physiologically we have spinocerebellar lobe. What are its components? Its components are same as that of the periocerebellum. That is the central lobule, culmen, ala, quadrangular lobule, and inferior pyramid and uvula. Next is corticopontocerebellar lobe. It is new cerebellum. That is all parts of the middle lobe, excluding the uvula and pyramid. Excluding the uvula and pyramid. This blue color. These are the parts of the corticopontocerebellum. Now what are its connections? It is corticopontocerebellar in connection. What is meant by this? It is connected with cerebral cortex, with pons and cerebellum. Cortico-pontocerebellar in connection. For example, if we draw a diagram, this is the cerebral cortex. Then midbrain. Then there is pons. And next to pons is medulla oblongata. Behind the pons is, this is right cerebellar hemisphere. And this is left cerebellar hemisphere. The pons is connected to the right and left cerebellar hemisphere by middle cerebellar peduncle on both sides. Now in the pons there are nuclei called nuclei pontis. Now this is the midline. Midline. And in the pons there are pontine nuclei. Now from the cerebral cortex, corticopontine fibers arise. From the cerebral cortex, corticopontine fibers arise, enter the pons, and they terminate in the pontine nucleus. From the pontine nucleus, they cross the midline, pass through middle cerebellar peduncle and terminate in the opposite cerebellum, opposite cerebellar hemisphere. From the cerebral cortex, nerve fibers arise, which descend through the cerebral hemisphere, midbrain, enter the pons. In the pons, they end in the pontine nucleus. Then they cross the midline and enter through middle cerebral peduncle to the opposite cerebellar hemisphere. Now, these fibers arising from the cerebral cortex to the pons are known as the corticopontine fibers. Corticopontine fibers. And these fibers, which arise from pontine nuclei, and enter the opposite cerebellar hemisphere, known as the pontocerebellar fibers. Known as the pontocerebellar fibers. Corticopontine fibers from cerebral cortex to the pontine nuclei and then from the pontocerebellar fibers, which arise from the pontine nuclei and enter the opposite cerebellar hemisphere. So these are corticopontine fibers, these are pontocerebellar fibers. Collectively, this pathway is known as the corticopontocerebellar path. Therefore, this physiological lobe, corticopontocerebellar lobe, which is nothing but the neocerebellum. And what are the parts of the neocerebellum? You know, all parts of the middle lobe except the uvula and pyramid. Neocerebellum. So neocerebellum is the corticopontocerebellar physiological lobe, and it is corticopontocerebellar in connection. Now, next to connections, what are the functions of this physiological lobe? What are the functions of this physiological lobe? That is, they maintain muscle tone. The effects of lesions. Of this lobe, it will result in hypotonia. It will result in intentional tremors, and it will result in the other condition like nystagmus. And dysdiadochokinesia. These are different effects of the lesions of this lobe. The corticopontocerebellar is the third physiological lobe. And what are its parts? Its parts are nothing but parts of the neocerebellum. What are its connection? Its name indicates it is corticopontocerebellar in connection. That is, the fibers arise from cerebral cortex, relay in the pontine nuclei. From the pontine nuclei, they pass to the opposite cerebellar hemisphere via middle cerebral peduncle. And its functions are to maintain the muscle tone, especially during voluntary movements. And when this lobe is or its connections are damaged, then what will happen? There will be loss of tone, muscle tone, reduction in the muscle tone or complete loss of muscle tone. Then intentional tremors. Intentional tremors are those tremors when a person is performing some activity, then tremor starts. For example, he is lying down doing nothing, or he is sitting in the chair. He is not performing any activity, there will be no tremors. Whenever he is picking a glass of water or a cup of tea, then tremor starts. So during the activity, tremor starts. Such tremors are known as the intentional tremors. Intentional tremors are the characteristic of cerebellar lesion. And tremors at rest occur in Parkinsonism when there is a lesion to the basal ganglion. In Parkinsonism, all the time the tremors are present, whether the patient is sitting, lying down, or he is performing some work, all the time there are tremors. But in cerebral lesion, there are intentional tremors. When the patient is at rest, there will be no tremors, but whenever he performs some activity, then tremors start. Such tremors are called intentional tremors. Then nystagmus, failure to fix eyes at one point. What is meant by nystagmus? Failure to fix eyes at one point. For example, if a patient is asked to look to the marker without moving his head, so normally the person will move his eyeballs towards the marker, and can fix his eyes at that point. But if there is lesion of this third physiological lobe, then when patient is asked to look at one point, for example, to the marker, immediately his eyes will move to the resting point. He cannot fix the eyes to that point. There is drifting of the eyes from fixed point to the rest point. This condition is called nystagmus, and it is one of the effect of lesion of this corticopontocerebellar lobe or neocerebellum. Next is dysdiadochokinesia. Patient cannot perform rapid movements. For example, if you are asked to supinate, this is supination of the arm and this is pronation of the arm. If you ask a normal person to do it rapidly, he can do like this. Rapidly, he can perform supinate and pronate the forearm. So in this patient, the patient cannot perform these movements repeatedly and fastly. Such a condition is called dysdiadochokinesia. So these are the effects of lesions of this third lobe, the corticopontocerebellar lobe, functional lobe. It is nothing but the neocerebellum, and what are its connections. Now let us play a game regarding cerebellum. Game of twos and game of threes, which may be of interest to you. So first of all, game of twos pertaining to cerebellum. Each cerebellum has two hemispheres, right cerebellar hemisphere and left cerebellar hemisphere. Each cerebellum has two notches, anterior cerebellar notch and posterior cerebellar notch. Each cerebellum has two surfaces, superior and inferior surfaces. Each cerebellum has two borders, anterolateral border and posterior border. Each cerebellum has two surface features. Two surface features, that is folia and fissures. Each cerebellum has two superior cerebellar peduncles. Each cerebellum has two middle cerebellar peduncles. Each cerebellum has two inferior cerebellar peduncles. And each cerebellum has two anterior relations, that is above pons and below is the upper part of medulla oblongata. Now this was game of twos. Now game of threes regarding cerebellum. Each cerebellum has three parts, right cerebellar hemisphere, left cerebellar hemisphere, and in the center is vermis. Three major parts. Each cerebellum has three gross anatomical lobes, that is anterior lobe, middle lobe, which is also known as the posterior lobe, and flocculonodular lobe. Each cerebellum has three developmental or embryological lobes, archicerebellum, paleocerebellum, and neocerebellum. Each cerebellum has three physiological or functional lobes regarding connections. Each cerebellum has three major fissures, fissura prima, horizontal fissure, and posterolateral fissure. Posterolateral fissure is also known as fissura posterolaterales. Each cerebellum has three pairs of peduncles, superior pair of peduncle, middle pair of cerebellar peduncle, and inferior pair of cerebellar peduncle. Each cerebellum has three connections with the brainstem. That is, it is connected with midbrain, with the pons, and with the medulla oblongata. Each cerebellum has three structural parts. If you cut a section, it comprises of gray matter called cerebellar cortex. Inside is white matter, and then in the white matter there are cerebellar nuclei. So three structural parts, gray matter, white matter, and nuclei. Each cerebellum has three layers of cerebellar cortex. This you will study in histology. So structurally or histologically, each cerebellar hemisphere is divided into three layers. That is molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer, and granular layer. Three layers. Then each cerebellum inside, there are nuclei, of which three nuclei are close to the upper part of the roof. So 3 roof nuclei, that is embryoniformis, fastigious, and globosus. Then there are 3 types of nerve fibers in the cerebellum, that is association fibers, commissural fibers, and projection fibers. And there are 3 types of connections as we discussed with the physiological lobes, that is spinocerebellar, vestibulocerebellar, and corticopontocerebellar connection. Each cerebellum has 3 arterial supply, that is pair of superior cerebellar arteries and anterior inferior cerebellar arteries and posterior inferior cerebellar arteries. So these are game of 2s and game of 3s regarding cerebellum. So with this we finished with the external features of the cerebellum. That is, we finished with the brain. That is, we discussed the external features of the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Next is the spinal cord. So before starting with the spinal cord, next lecture I will try to show all these external, rather more than visible external features of the brain with the help of brain specimen. And after finishing with the demonstration on brain specimen, then we will start with the external features of the spinal cord. Thank you very much.